Yo, welcome in. It's the Sony Open Jock Market Power Hour. Back at it again. That right there, that's Joe Idoni. I'm Rick Gaiman, and we are going to spend the next hour breaking down the IPO phase of the Jock Market, cash market for the Sony Open. Joe, buddy, you ready to do this again?
What's good, brother? I'm ready. Let's roll.
Let's absolutely jump right into this. Chad, he knows what's going on. Let's go. Here we go again. It's time. Joe, there is going to be so much stuff going on. Obviously, I've got a lot of data from last week. I think we should probably start there, right? That makes sense. Last week's Century Tournament of Champions, I am going to throw up some of the biggest winners and biggest losers from last week across the bottom. And of course, if you want to participate in Stock Market DFS, which you absolutely should. Link is in the description. Download Jock Market. Use the code POWER20 for a $20 deposit bonus. And Joe, Harris English is your big gainer from last week. He IPO'd at $6.34, paid out $25 a share.
Wow. How did we all miss Harris? He played so good, coming basically off a win in that team event, and rewarded the people who were smart enough to buy some shares at $6 and cash them out at 25. Wow.
It's, I've been compiling the cash market data in the 9 cash markets that have gone on for Jock Market, and I was looking at some of the ROIs. I mean, Harris English last week was one of the largest ROIs that we've seen. I'll put you on the spot here, Joe. You don't know the answer to this question, or at least we didn't talk about it beforehand. Can you think of other golfers from this year that might have had a higher ROI than Harris English?
So I don't know, limb here and say Dustin Johnson.
So DJ's been consistently good. He's basically returning 100% ROI. But I'm thinking of really cheap guys that would go on to win the golf tournament.
That's tough. I know that there were a couple of guys that like popped huge in the 800-900% range, which was like Kokrak and Carlos Ortiz, but consistently, I'm sure Sungjae's got to be reasonably up there with a good Masters performance. I mean, how far back exactly, Rick, does this data go? How many tournaments back?
This goes back to the Tour Championship. So here's the big movers. Robert Strepp. Strepp at the RSM was $1.60 at IPO. Obviously, the victory pays out $25 a share. Brian Gay at the Bermuda Championship. A lot of guys at Bermuda because we saw such an eclectic leaderboard of guys that were trying to contend there. And then you mentioned Carlos Ortiz winning in Houston. He went from $2.70 to $25 payout. And then Kokrak was on here as well. He was $4.25. He went to the full 25. So it is there's a lot of movement in some of these markets, my man.
Yeah, definitely. Pretty cool to see a lot of that data that we have access to now. Awesome stuff.
Awesome stuff. We are, last week, Neiman gets into a playoff, right? Joaquin Neiman gets himself into a playoff against Harris English. I know there were a lot of Neiman shares out there. He actually IPO'd for $7, which was more expensive than Harris English, but still paid out $20 a share. I think he's going to be popular again this week.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Anytime you come off a strong performance like that, you're just traveling over to the other island. There's a lot of differences, but a lot of similarities in terms of potentially how the course may play. So with him being popular last week, I'm sure that he's going to garner quite a bit of attention coming into the Sony.
We've got to talk about some losers too. I am guilty of some of these losers here. The biggest loser, Hideki Matsuyama, $7.88 is what he IPO'd at. Down to the bare min, $1 a share. So that one hurt. And I don't think I was alone. Joe, he was one of the most popular one and done picks. He was popular in all DFS circles, all fantasy formats, but certainly did not come to play in Maui.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty bad when only 3 guys in the field pay out $1, and Hideki was one of them. But interestingly, like, he's just one of those guys that you think of as so reliable and consistent in terms of DFS and fantasy, and you would consider him along the same lines in Jock Market as well, because you're not necessarily betting on him to win, which is the thing with Hideki, right? He doesn't always hoist the trophy at the end of the event, but he usually is very consistently up in that top 10. Obviously struggled last week, and you were quick to point out that a lot of it relied on the flat stick, right?
Yeah. That's always been his enemy and continued to be in Maui last week. JG Funk tells us he did well last week. He got Neiman at $7, so I mentioned that paid out at 20. He got Sergio at $4.15, which I have right here. That would have paid out $8. So basically doubled your money there. Morikawa at $7.55. He paid out $9.50 and then lost on Answer just a hair, 5 cents a share. And then Finau was a big one too. So he was one of the other big losers. So the big losers from last week, Hideki, Hovland, Finau, and Carlos Ortiz went from $5.55 to $1.38 were some of the big losers.
Yeah, I definitely took a bath on Finau as well, but was fortunate to kind of make that up a little bit with Sergio, and then obviously with Sungjae shares. My other guys were Cantlay and Scott, who ended up breaking right about even. So I was able to bring in a little bit of a return, but nothing to write home about last week.
Okay, so let's transition to this week. Sony Open, and a lot has changed. This is the first full field event on the PGA Tour, and it's also going to impact our Jock markets as well. Obviously, there are 2 markets available on Jock Market right now. There's the cash market. That's where you can buy and sell shares of golfers for real dollars. It's the best. There's also a free roll contest. I believe it's $250 guaranteed. So you can get in there, mix it up without putting anything up front. And it's paid out in a very flat structure, which I really do appreciate. And then you can take those dollars and use them to buy shares in the next cash market. It's a win-win-win. Here's the thing, Joe, the payouts are different. And I'm actually going to throw these up here at the bottom, just the top payouts. So, here they are at the bottom, and describe when I say payouts, we have to be careful about our words here, because this relates to technically fantasy scoring, right? And then based on fantasy scoring, depending on where that golfer finishes, it pays out this share price at the bottom. Am I describing that accurately?
Definitely. Yes. Some of it can get a little difficult to track, but more or less kind of to simple things, the better your guy does, the better he's going to pay out. And you can kind of look roughly at the scoreboard in terms of giving you a rough idea of where that payout is roughly going to land. So if he's in 6th place, he's going to be somewhere right around there. But ultimately, like you said, the scoring and the payout structure is determined by the amount of fantasy points that particular golfer accrues over the week.
And it's going all the way down to 79 golfers this week. So the 80th golfer is going to be the first golfer that receives that minimum dollar payout. Every other golfer above that, or better than that, I should say, is getting somewhere between $25 a share and $1 a share. All of the payouts are available in the app, which we are going to show you here in a second with our little nifty little screen thing. But I do want to pull this up real quick, because we're getting some good comments, and feel free to comment this. We want this to be an interactive show. We want to be able to drop your comments in here, whether it's strategy for this week, whether it's strategy and advice for the Jock market, which we know is a unique structure. And Osho wants to know how I found Jock market. And I think this is a really good question. I think I heard about it from, I want to say, Will Haskett's podcast, which I believe is called The Perfect Number. And he had Dave from Jock Market on. And this has always been something, right? Like I've seen stock market, sports related things for years, right, and most of them are not done very well. So after I listened to it on Will's pod, I was like, oh my God, this is pretty cool. Let me check this out. One thing leads to another. And here we are doing a Jock Market Power Hour every week, Joe. So how did you hear about Jock Market?
I heard about it from you, man. So I got wind of it from you. I just love the idea. I don't consider myself like a stock wizard, but I enjoy keeping track of it, keeping my own sort of portfolio, Robin Hooding around every now and then during quarantine, back and forth to pass some time. But When the concept came about, I thought it was extremely interesting. I downloaded the app right away. I used the promo code, which we have a promo code up there now that's going on the bottom of the screen, which is Power20. That will get you a free $20 deposit bonus on your first deposit. But I started out and I just basically played those free contests to start to kind of get my feet wet, and thought it was awesome. The concept, the way that the app functionality of it and the look and how it was so appealing to the eye and was easy to use, easy to understand, and an awesome concept that I'm glad we got the opportunity to do this now.
For sure. So Mike Rob 1404 asks, can you explain the basic process as how you bid and buy shares? So this is perfect. We've been waiting for this one, Joe. So what we've tried to rig up this week is the ability to show Joe's phone screen. So fingers crossed this all works appropriately. I'm going to pull up Joe's screen right here, and Joe is going to walk us through so what we're looking at right now is the lobby, right? This is the cash market. These are all of the golfers, all of their current prices in this bidding phase. So Joe, just kind of show us what happens when you click a guy, maybe a process of throwing a bid or two in. Show us what's going on here.
Sure. So this is the process here. So it's basically you're scrolling through, you have every guy in the field, and it will show you in black here on the right-hand side their current price. So I actually kind of like Brendan Todd this week. So when you click on Brendan Todd's name, this screen will pop up. So it will give you a number of things here. It's going to give you some stats and some news on the bottom. It will also give you a projected fantasy points on the top there, where he ranked pre-tournament, and this is all kind of determined by Jock Market, and a suggested price, which they have here at $5.45. So if I want to buy shares of Brendan Todd, I will click buy here.
This is my favorite screen. This is the screen that you start to punch in. Okay. Brendan Todd currently $5.10. So Joe, there's a couple ways that you can go about doing this.
Oh, he's jumping up. He's jumping up.
Oh my God. As I say, 533. You guys are running the price up on Joe. He's trying to put a bid in here. So what I see is this, $5.33. You can do this and say, you know what? I'm just going to go to 540, see if I can get up there, try to get into a little bit of a bidding war, or you could put in essentially the max amount that you wanted to put in. So how would you handle this from here?
So here's what I do, and a little tip that what I do in order to not drive the price way up right now, I'm not going to, if I want a ton of shares, I'm not going to put in a ton of shares right now. But what you can do is you can either type in, like I just did, the amount that you want to bid. You can also use this little slider here that you see. And as I kind of drive that slider over to the right, it's a little bit lagging behind, but you'll notice that the break-even position right under there is changing. So as the price goes up, that break-even position is in turn going down.
So what that is saying, because this is critically important, that break even, that fair value position. So right now it says 15.6, which is essentially 15th position in the tournament. So if you think Brendan Todd is going to finish inside the top 15, he would pay for himself at whatever price you're putting in. So here's a good example. Leave it right there, Joe. So $6. Okay. At $6, Brendan Todd would have to finish inside essentially the top 27 to make you money. If he finishes 28th, he breaks even. If he finishes 29th or worse, you are losing money per share. So those two numbers in combination with one another are critically important.
Exactly. So the next step it would be actually making the bid. So once I set my share amount, I'm going to put in here at $6 a share. You click set share count. So here I can pick the amount of shares that I want to do. Jock Market takes a extremely minimal, in my opinion, 1% fee. So I got to pay $6.06 for this $6 share. If I buy one share of Brendan Todd right now, review order and submit.
We're just a couple seconds. We're just a couple seconds behind on the screen, I think, but you're seeing it in. So Joe's popped in one share. I'm assuming he's clicked. There we go. He's clicked review order. Now he's clicked submit. So the screen share is just a little bit behind, but there it is. Boom. So now he is currently winning one share of Brendan Todd, and he's in for $6. So as this goes up, as Brendan Todd's price goes up from 533 to 534 to 535, the Jock Market app is going to systematically increase his bid for him And until it gets to that $6 where that's essentially his max. So Joe, I like what you did there. This is why the last 15 minutes of IPO is so crazy, is because you don't want to alert everyone else that you're bidding on this, right? I mean, because you're going to get a notification if someone outbids you on Brendan Todd. And we want you to tell us. When that happens, we want you to tell us.
Totally. So what I do now, like just kind of my strategy, will you pull that back up just for 1 second, Rick? Sure, I just want to kind of show you this. So now that I have my orders in, so you have the long list of players, which can, to me, get a little bit overwhelming when you're trying to scroll through 150-man field here. So what I do is you have this orders tab along the bottom, and that will show you the guys that you bid on. So the way I kind of use this is I put 1 share to start on the guys that I'm interested in. And what that does to me, it's kind of like the PGA Tour app or leaderboard where you can essentially star your players that you bet on. So I will take my 5, 6, 7 guys that I'm interested this week, purchase 1 share, and then that way I can get them all on this screen and monitor, my bid price versus what they're actively going for in the IPO. And then essentially, I can make my decision to buy more or leave it at 1 share. Or if I see it go too quickly, I can just say that's enough. I'm not willing to pay that for Cam Smith this week, for instance.
There you go. Absolutely love it. We are going to keep an eye on Joe's screen throughout the evening, but I've also got the dashboard back, and I already saw JG Funk says Coke Rack is $3.05 right now. Well, spoiler alert, he's getting more expensive as we go along here. He's now up to $3.33. So as we get closer to IPO closing, we're going to keep a close eye on this dashboard. This dashboard allows us to keep up with pricing in real time. It allows us to see what the fair value for each one of these golfers is. And Joe, you mentioned something to me before we got started here. We were just hanging out for a couple of minutes, and you said that you haven't seen so many golfers over $5 or $6 this early in a Wednesday night.
Absolutely no. So it tells me a couple of things. A lot of you guys are catching on to the Jock market wave here and riding it with us. And 2, I just think the amount of shares that are going back and forth between our friends over at Jock Market has gone up significantly as well. So listen, guys, you don't want to get too crazy, though, at 7:30 p.m. You want to hold back a little bit of that ammo so that we're not driving these guys' prices through the roof too soon. But it's awesome to see the amount of shares that are being bought and sold out there. And it's just a lot of guys kind of bunched $10 to $5 range. This early on was still 30 minutes basically here till close.
The big thing I want to make sure that we track throughout the evening is the middle and bottom tier guys. Last week, 42 golfers in the field. This week, 144? I mean, I've literally got 4 pages. I got 4 pages of golfers in the dashboard this week. We've got a lot of guys to keep an eye on. And that some of these golfers who are currently sitting down here in the $2 range, I don't know who they are. One of them's going to pop up. They're going to finish at $8 a share. They're going to finish at $6.50 a share. There is just so much room. I don't know if equity is the right word, but there's so much room for equity in these guys down here because they don't have to go very far, right? Absolutely.
Like, I love this range right here because look at a guy around $2 a share right now. So the absolute worst that can happen if he finishes DFL this week, you are losing. You're going to get $1 a share back. You paid $2 a share. You're not really getting completely wiped out there. You're basically losing half your value. But in turn, should that guy make the cut and finish in the top 20, you have the chance to triple or quadruple the amount of equity you have in that guy. So if he top 13s this week, you're getting back $10 a share when you paid $2. So there's a lot of room in these guys. Brian Gay is a great example of a guy who I like, who's a guy who played last week, which a lot of people are looking to target guys who played in the Century. Obviously, he's coming off a win, the event right before that. So if you can catch Brian Gay at a good number this week and he can sneak inside that top 15, he presents an opportunity to make a lot of money.
Let me give a very real world example because I think one of the questions I get a lot is, I don't have $3,000 to drop into the IPO. You and me both. Where I'm not dropping $3,000 into the IPO. You know, I want to play with $10, $20. So imagine this scenario. If you want to take your $20 for the week and you want to buy 10 shares of Brian Gay at $2. Now he's probably going to go up over the course of the next 30 minutes or so. But let's say for round numbers, you buy 10 shares of Brian Gay. To Joe's point, if Brian Gay finishes dead last, you've lost $10 because his final payout's gonna be $1. Okay. Now, if he does what he did at Bermuda and he goes out and wins the thing and cashes in at $25 per share at the end, that means you're making $23 a share. You have 10 shares from him. That is $230. So not everything is a thousands upon thousands of dollar decision, which I think is one of the really interesting aspects of Jock Market. Is the guys who would normally play the micro stakes, the guys who would normally play the high stakes, we are all in this together and there's room for everybody.
Absolutely. Totally. So you can play it a number of ways. Exactly like you said, you can kind of go for those guys down the list and just hope that they top 10, top 20. Some of them just making the cut is going to turn a little bit of a profit for you. Or you can go and attack the top of the board. So there's room there. You have Webb, Berger, Sung J M are the top 3 guys on the board this week. I don't think any of us are going to say they're not going to have a good week, right? They're all up there at the top of the odds board. They're at the top of the Jock Market board right now. So even with Webb, for instance, if you are a firm believer that Webb Simpson's going to go out there and win this week, which I can't really give you any reason that he's not, $10 a share you can argue is a bargain. Because if he does do that and finishes 25, you're making $15 a share. Multiply that by how many shares you purchase of him. So there's opportunity in nearly every spot of the board, whether you want to attack the higher price guys or the lower price guys down the list.
Power 20 is our $20 deposit bonus. If you haven't signed up yet, you're crazy. If you haven't taken advantage of the deposit bonus yet, you're even crazier. Go ahead, do that. And DFS Tavern is in the chat, and I appreciate you showing up. Good to see you. He says, hey guys, great show. Are you more into buying and holding or buy and sell as soon as a good price comes your way? And I think this is, again, one of the things that I like is there's a lot of strategies here. You can buy in the IPO and sit on this until Sunday night and see how your shares come up. You can day trade all day long throughout these rounds and figure it out, or you can do somewhere in between. So for me, Joe, I love being involved in the IPO phase. I think that's where the best value is. I think that is where I can kind of say, okay, I've got my convictions about this tournament. I want to make sure that I get as many shares as I can in IPO. But I then, after each round, will sit down and say, okay, who do I think is going in the right direction? Who do I think is going in the wrong direction? And is there any interesting ask prices out there? Are there any guys that I want to put up? So that's usually how I handle it. How about you?
Same. So totally. I do the volume of my trading in the IPO hour. That said, at the end of each tournament, I like to look and see where my guys stand. If I feel like there is a bid price out there that exceeds what I think his value is, I'm willing to sell those shares and try to make a little bit of a profit or cut my losses in some instances, right? And just get rid of it before you see that going down to $1 a share. And at the same token, you look at guys that you feel like could attack. Like one guy I took last week was Bryson. I believe there was a couple asks out there for $12.75 and $13, and it was after Friday. And I just felt like he's the type of player that could destroy Sentry if things were working. And I think that things were very close for him as I watched him. He had a lot of eagle opportunities that didn't drop. Was driving some par fours where a couple of those putts go in, and he could have very easily found himself in the top 5 or top 4 last week, which would have returned a decent profit on that investment.
I love it. Keep in mind, we are about 20 minutes out from lock. So we're going to start talking about individual golfers here in a second, but I do want to point out just a couple of things in the chat here in terms of features. So, we are lucky, Joe, to kind of have an ear to the Jock Market guys with some of the feedback that we have, right? And you kind of alluded to this earlier, whether it's a little bit of a favorites tab, whether it is the ability to short golfers. These are all things on our wish list. The way to get things done on that wish list is support Jock Market, right? The more people 100%. That are playing, the more people that are involved, obviously, the more they want to invest in building out the platform. So that to me is the best way to do it. Also, here's one that someone sent me in an email, and I wish I had who it was, and I thought this was a great idea. He said, why don't they end the free market IPO like 15 or 20 minutes before the cash market, or a half hour before? Because it's hard he wants to play both.
It is.
And it's hard to go back and forth.
It is. I think that's a great idea. That's the first time I heard that. And they have been very receptive to ideas. Like, they're awesome guys. They're very down to earth. Tweet at them at Jock Market if you have suggestions, and they typically answer everything that I've seen. And they're just moving at like lightning speed with this app. Like, keep in mind, they just launched in the summer. So this thing is relatively new. They've gotten the Google Play Store done. They're building more states all the time. I talked to them last week. New York should be coming soon. Pennsylvania should be coming soon. Canada is very right around the corner. So these guys are working their butt off to make this like the premier app in terms of merging the stocks and sports. And I think they're on their way and it's taking off, man, to the moon.
I love it. I absolutely love it. All right, let's start talking about this week a little bit. And we already have, so let me pull up the dashboard here. We already have Webb Simpson, who has snapped through the $10 mark. So just to recap, from last week, there were 4 golfers who finished IPO at over $10. Both Dustin Johnson and Justin Thomas closed at $11.55. Bryson DeChambeau at $10.55 and John Rahm at $10.50. Joe, I think it's fair to say Webb Simpson's probably going to be more expensive than those guys, right? He probably gets over $11.55 at the current pace that he's on.
Yeah, I think so. But at the same token, been stuck on this ledge of $10.01 for a little while. I assume people who want to get in at this point are just going to wait until 850, 855 to do it. But we talked about this last week, and I know you just brought up the thing there that said IPO closes at 9 p.m. It's not always exactly 9 p.m., guys. So it could be anywhere between 8:05 and 9. So don't wait until 8:59:45 to place that final bid. It's a little bit of a guessing game in terms of when exactly it's going to close. So just keep that in mind.
Next on, and just in terms of just like Webb's outlook for this week, I think he is very clearly the favorite. I think he should be. I think he is, whatever his IPO closes at, whether it's $12. And you have to think about this, right? So even let's say Webb closes at 12 or 12.50. Where does he finish? So I'm just kind of looking at our little dashboard here. 7th place would pay out $13 a share. 6th would pay out 14. 5th would pay out 15. So there is juice to squeeze, even if he closes at something like 12.50, which at this point he seriously might.
Yeah.
Next up, Daniel Berger, $8.76. He's down there with Sung Jae Im, Colin Morikawa, and Adam Scott. Let's talk about Scott, because you and I, before we went live, were jiving on Scott, and we're like, holy crap, he's like the 5th most expensive golfer right now. And I get it and I don't at the same time. I'm probably taking a wait and see approach, but here we go. General sentiment is very positive on Adam Scott at the moment.
Yeah, I think even last week, a lot of people weren't sure what to do. I had some shares of Adam Scott last week who ended up breaking about even, if I remember correctly. But look, he struck hell out of the ball last week, and his strokes gain numbers were terrific. Couldn't putt. Obviously went with that shorter putter last week, but maybe you can confirm this, Rick. You're a little more in the know than me, but I saw some things out there that he may be going back to the old broomstick this week.
He had the broomstick in the bag today. Now, if you believe that Adam Scott is going to keep the same putter in the bag for 2 consecutive days, I don't know. So we'll see what it's like tomorrow morning. Obviously, we're not going to know that at the end of IPO, but indications are he might be leaning towards putting that broomstick back in the bag, which is something he has putted a little bit better with. I do have his numbers here. So he gained 6.8 strokes on approach last week. He was a small positive in terms of off the tee. He was terrible around the greens. He lost 4 strokes. He must have chunked a couple. That's hard to do. And then he lost another 3 putting. So there is certainly a path to him rebounding very quickly. And I think that a lot of the people out there agree, because they've bid him up to $7.46. He's more expensive than Ryan Palmer. He's more expensive than Sebastian Munoz. He's more expensive than Joaquin Niemann, who I think are also going to garner plenty of bids this week.
Yeah, another interesting guy I wanted to ask you about, defending champion Cameron Smith here was a little bit off and on last week, struggled with the putter, which is something that he normally gains a ton of strokes with. Any thought pro or against Cam Smith this week for you?
Yeah, so this is where I think that the stock market or the free market, so to speak, is so much better for Cam Smith. I think that odds makers, in terms of outrights, they always overvalue your defending champion. I think that DFS sites historically have overvalued defending champions. So I think that Cam Smith is most playable and most interesting in this format, because the free market is going to determine his value. It's not going to be assigned by a bookmaker, or it's not going to be assigned by a major DFS site. So that's where I actually think that Cam Smith, guys like Cam Smith, guys that even have great course history, I think they're more valuable here. So with all that being said, obviously Wiley's a really good fit for him. He's not a very long hitter, but he can hit his irons well. He putts well. He can get hot in a moment's notice. He has plenty of good vibes. So yes, I actually think that this is the only format that I want to get Cam Smith in, if that makes any sense.
Got it. I like him as well this week. I have a little outright on him. I just feel like this place sets up for him. Wiley has treated historically Australian players very well over the years. I don't know if there's something to that, but it has. First place last year, good vibes. Obviously coming off the Masters in a career year. He's the type of player, to me, Rick, that just really rides form. So I don't know necessarily if he's going to be able to carry that over from the Masters, but I think 9 out of his last top 10 events that he's played in, he's been top 25 or better. So in that situation, you can look 25th place this week, I believe, is going to pay out 667. So 9 out of the last 10 events, he's paid out 667 or better, assuming those were all on the jock market. His price right now is hovering around 550. So he's a guy that I see some value in if you think he can ride some of that form from the fall.
Not only is he about 650, but his IPO has never closed higher than 625. I think we're obviously going to break that this week, but interesting to note. And also, fellas, Sal Vetri in the chat. Sal and I broke down the DFS slate on the First Cut pod earlier this week. Sal, good to have you. I know that Sal enjoys some jock market himself, and it's glad to have him here. Looking forward to some of these other guys, Joe. I mean, it's short and accurate hitters week, right? We are seeing, the differences between Kapalua and Wiley could not be overstated. Kapalua is long, and the elevation and the huge greens and the undulation, and Wiley's like the easiest walk on the PGA Tour. It's as flat as could possibly be. It's short, it's narrow in the fairways. Of course, the rough is not all that thick, but you prefer to be in the fairway. And, we've seen some of these shorter guys get around here, and we're seeing that here in the jock market as well. I'm seeing Kevin Kisner be bid up to $7. I'm seeing Abraham Answer be bid up to $6.35. I'm seeing Ryan Palmer's up here as well, $7. So this is kind of a week. Brendan Todd, your boy Brendan Todd, you're about to lose that bid. I think you're about to lose that.
I am. You're right. You're right about it. Here's another guy though that kind of fits that mold, and these are the types of guys that I look to target because hasn't been playing that well. But those guys that you just mentioned, I think that he's on par with, and I think this is a great setup for him. Matt Kuchar. So his game kind of left him in 2020. He flew down the sort of the rankings in the OWGR, but he's sitting there at $3.62 right now, which is about half the price of those other guys, the Kisners, the Answers, the Todds of the world. He's about half their price right now, and I think that this is a great setup for him. Keep in mind that while he did struggle, played pretty well in that team event, right? Him and Harris took it down, so maybe a little bit of good mojo. Cooch is never really the most popular guy to begin with in terms of DFS or betting formats, but he just kind of sticks out down there. Kevin Nas, another one, a guy that played well, didn't play well, but played last week, is a shorter hitter, can really stick his wedges and kind of get a hot putter. Could be a good setup for him. But there's some names down there in that $3-4 range.
Yeah, you're seeing kind of some built-in value already. I'm not a big fan of Kuchar, but there's a price for everybody, and $3.62 is much too low for him at the moment. And you can even see what their fair value price is. And the way that I like the way that jock market comes up with their fair value position is essentially using the betting markets. Their outright numbers, their top 5, their top 10, their missed the cut, all that good stuff. So you are essentially, if you trust odd makers, which in theory, they're kind of the best at this, there is like at least $2 or $1.50 of already built-in value into Matt Kuchar at his current number. But I do want to go deeper here, Joe, because we're about 10 minutes out from from IPO closing, and I'm still seeing. So here is about $2 to $2.40. I'm shocked to see this name. I know a lot of people don't know who it is, but it's Takumi Kanaya. He is, I believe he's from Japan. He just like 5 events ago, I believe. And the thing I know about him is Mark Immelman had him on, I want to say his International Walker Cup team or something like that, and raves about him, like how good this kid's game is. And you're talking about someone who's $2.22. Obviously not going to have to do much to even break even and then potentially earn you some bucks here. But is there anyone else in this kind of, call it 175 to 250 range that's piquing your interest?
I still have some interest in Brian Gay. You kind of highlighted him earlier, but he's right at $2.50 right now. I'm kind of looking, I know it's sort of a little bit of a lazy narrative to take guys that played last week at the Century, but there's something to it. You highlighted him earlier as one of the biggest ROIs of the year in Robert Streb. Could potentially be a decent course for Bobby Streb. Harry Higgs is down there at $2.78, which is always a fun guy to roster or put in your portfolio. And then he's a little bit on the expensive side this week, but I always like having some shares of Ryan Armour. Seems to play these short tracks very well. He's one of the most accurate drivers on tour and is pretty good at getting up and down around the green.
Interesting. I want to go back to the comments here for just 1 second, because this is a good question here from Scott Stewart. What up, Scott? Say you bid $12 a share and it closes at 10. Do you get the difference back? Yes. Yeah. So feel free to bid whatever. If you win it and you don't have to go that high, you do get the difference back. So you don't have to worry about committing to that price. That is a very good question. Let's do a leaderboard update here. And Joe, you were dead on. Webb has not moved off of $10. I mean, my dashboard's not broken, right? I mean, he has not moved off $10.
No, he hasn't.
$10.01, which is surprising. Maybe that is all going to come in the next, call it 7 minutes. But that is probably my biggest surprise at the moment. And then not so surprised that Sung Jae is the second most expensive golfer.
Yeah, I not same as well. I have Sung Jae slightly ahead of Berger this week as well. A couple of surprising things, and looking at that are still to me a little bit shocked at the price of Adam Scott. And then you have a couple of good players in Joaquin Niemann and still Cam Smith down there. Who, if you look at the odds boards, they are probably fifth and anywhere from 5th to 7th on the odds boards, but they're not in the top 10 this week.
You know what? I scrolled past Neiman and I also ran right into Russell Henley there. I mean, those are two guys. I mean, Henley's won this event before. He's been phenomenal with his irons. Neiman, obviously in really great form, coming off that runner-up last week at the Century Tournament of Champions. My goodness, that right there. I mean, those guys are less expensive than Kevin Kisner is. And then you start scrolling down a little bit further, and there has been a ton of steam on Cameron Davis, almost to the point where I'm getting worried about this, Joe.
Don't do it, Rick.
Dude, the guy has been steamed from, he opened at 135 to 1. He got to 100 to 1 yesterday. I checked on Will Hill this morning, 66 to 1. Like, now I'm nervous. We might be at critical mass here. I'm scared. I'm really scared.
So it's kind of crazy. I do have 125 to 1 ticket on him that I got on Monday. I love Cameron Davis this week, and one of the things that tipped me off to him was the RickRunGood cheat sheet tools page.
There you go.
So when I look at your sort of projected fantasy points, I don't want to give people too much info. It's behind the paywall there.
Go for it.
But he was like in the top 5 this week. So I don't know how you get the stats that you do, but I'm sure there's an algorithm and a formula to it, and he was rated very high. He was up there with Sung Jae, Berger, Webb, and then all of a sudden I see Cam Davis up there, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's triple digits on the odds board. Let me fire here.
Yeah, it's the thing with Cam Davis. He's so young. He's so raw. He kind of messes with the model in a good way. He's so good. He had a top 10 here last year. We're just not seeing him put 4 rounds together. That might happen here in 2021. We are I don't know. We could be 5 minutes away. We are right up against it here. You're going to want to start getting your bids in, Joe. I'm going to want to ask to bring back up your screen here because I want to give people kind of a look into what maybe the next minute or two for you looks like, because there's probably a lot going on, and this is very easily the best part of Jock Market. These few moments right here. So let me clear out some of these banners so we can see everything. But
okay, cool.
Why don't you show us? Are you willing to show us your existing orders here? Some things that you have outstanding.
So my existing orders, I have the 1 share of Cam Smith. I have 20 of Cam Davis. I have 1 of Lonto and 1 left of Matt Kuchar. So I seem to have driven his price up to what was my maximum bid. So I'm probably going to lose that. I don't know if I'm still in on Kuchar in the mid 4s, but we'll see. What I'm going to look at now is kind of trying to, who do I want to target here in this top 10? I'm going to go with Neiman. Right now at $7.75 a share. Let me see, because I kind of have some fair value rankings here. Let me see maybe where I feel comfortable with Neiman at.
You find out where you're going to get Neiman at. I'll give a quick update. We are still holding strong on Webb Simpson at $10.01. I cannot imagine he's going to close in that in the next couple of minutes. But Daniel Berger and Sung J M have cracked through the $9 range. There was a big jump on Russell Henley up to $7.79. And Joe is about to make a jump on Joaquin Neiman here, I believe. Are we?
Yeah, I'm getting back. I'm getting back in. I have my 1 share of Cam Smith. I'm going to go back in here. So I have a target price that I'm just going to type in here of Cam Smith. I try to do a fair value target. If any of you guys are interested in this, I try to assess a value for every player in the field. You can DM me and I will gladly email you over this spreadsheet.
There you go.
But I really love Cam Smith this week. I'm going to see if I can snatch 40 shares of him here. And we'll see if that holds.
All right, we'll see if that holds, and someone else is probably going to grab that from you, Joe.
741, yeah.
But here, I mean, there are guys that I think have a lot of upside still here, so I want to pull back up. I'm going to bring back the tool here, and like Sergio Garcia, I think is one of these guys that you either play every week or you never play, because you never know when it's coming, right? He's very on brand with the irons. He is not a very good putter. He's going to snap off and win at some point. I don't know when it's going to be. He played well last week at the Century Tournament of Champions. He closes at 415, and that hasn't even moved his price over 550 yet, which is where he currently sits. So we are in the thick of this right now. Sebastian Munoz is a guy that I really liked this week, and Brendan Todd even only at $6.25. I think that's going to change in the next. What do you think? This closes in the next minute or two?
We're at 356. Yeah, it could honestly be any minute now. So let me go back. I actually like Todd too. What do you have him at right now?
I have Todd at 625.
Okay, so let me see if I can snatch a little bit of Todd here.
Webb just broke off of 1001 to 1002, so he's on the move.
He's on the move, yeah.
Morikawa's on the move. English getting a bit of a bump here. Still seeing really good prices on. I mean, who's willing to buy back in on Hideki? Anybody? Like, I mean, it looks like you're going to get a good price if you just forget about the last 4 rounds.
Let me see. What's Hideki's price right now?
$7.08 is what I see. Can I offer you some Hideki? Can I offer you some? I'm trying to see who else I can get you with here. Emiliano Grillo.
There's a lot of guys like this is active right now. Like things are changing rapidly. So it's pretty electric.
Okay, I'm gonna give this a refresh here. Now you're gonna have to let us know, Joe, when this closes. But it could be any moment here. Okay, now we're seeing big movements. We're seeing huge movements. So here we go. Webb Simpson up to $12.26. That is now more expensive than anybody who was in the field at the Century Tournament of Champions last week. So there is the way to squeeze any juice out of Webb Simpson is essentially he's gonna have to finish in 7th or better. That is the bet that Webb Simpson bidders are making right now. Colin Morikawa, $10.25. The bet that they're making right now is he's going to finish inside 11th or better. Those are 2 big movers in the last few moments. Daniel Berger and Sung J M trying to get through, and why Neiman, Joe, I'm not sure if you had anything to do with that, is now over $10 as well.
Wow. Okay. I just got notification that IPO is officially closed for the week.
Closed. We're closed. We're closed. We're closed. We're going to give it a second to make sure that all of our stuff is in order, and we're going to roll through this. We'll check out who Joe has. We'll look at some of the final prices here. But for now, IPO is closed. So let me get a refresh here. There was a ton of movement at the end. Every time the dashboard refreshed, there were dollar movements. There were $1.50 movements. Let me make sure I have the final numbers here. I think I do. And I'm going to pull these back up here, Joe.
Okay.
every week this thing gets me. Okay. Is this what you have? Webb Simpson, $12.50. Colin Moore. Oh, I guess you can't see it anymore. So this is right.
No, I can. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah. Webb is $12.50, which, wow, that's a little bit. He went up. So it basically was, when we started the show, $10, and from, let's call it $8.15 to $8.50, he went up 1 cent. And then in the last 5 minutes there went up $2.49, which is pretty wild. So everyone basically, waited till that last minute, which is much of what we suspected.
Yeah, so this is really juicy. I love Webb. This might even be too juicy for me. So $12.50. So you'll see if he finishes 8th, that's a payout of $12. If he finishes 7th, that's a payout of $13. So you're seeing essentially backers of Webb Simpson saying, I think he's going to finish 7th or better. Now, Joe, pre-IPO, the fair value position for Webb was 10.9. So this is very confident Webb backers driving this price.
100%. Yeah. They have reason to be confident. Look, everything sets up so perfectly for Webb this week. He's the number 1 player in the field. I think he's the number 1 player on the odds board for a very good reason. So if you think he's going to win the tournament, right around $12.50, you have the chance to double your money there based on the final payout if he finishes first. And like you said, he finishes 7th or better, will return basically that price. So for me, it's a little too much. 7th or better is hard in 145, 150 man field. But then again, he's the clear and away favorite for a reason.
It is. I'm just kind of looking through the dashboard here in Austin. The sentiments of the last 5 minutes always being a rush for sure. Andy got Jason Kokrak at $7.97. Feel free to let us know who you got, who you missed out on. That's always a fun part of this. But just looking at some of the fair values versus their IPOs, the first one that seems like at least a bit of a value is Joaquin Niemann, who closed at $9.50. His fair value was $9.61. So if we put this into perspective for you, at $9.50, if he finishes 13th, he breaks even. If he finishes 12th, he makes you 50 cents a share. So how do you feel about Joaquin Niemann closing at $9.50?
I love it. I got no shares of him. I missed out. I think I bid just under that, but 13th or better. I feel about this for Niemann. I think, one way to think about it is number and betting number, which I don't have in front of me right now, but I'm sure that it's probably around even odds for him to finish in the top 10. I believe he's like 20-1 this week. So so if you're basically getting paid out at 13th or better, it looks like you got a little bit of juice to squeeze there.
Further down, Russell Henley came in under his fair value. $8.27 is what he closed. That his fair value was $9.48. Some guys that, first of all, Hideki closed $2.10 below his fair value price. So now let's talk about Hideki, $7.30. So if he finishes essentially 20th or better, Hideki to me is still going to be the guy who makes you a ton of money or loses you a ton of money.
That's interesting because I have a lot of shares of Hideki.
You do you?
Yeah, you talked me into him at the last minute. But listen, can he lose 9 strokes putting again, Rick? Please tell me no.
I don't think he will. I don't think you can lose 9 at Waialae. You and I couldn't lose 9 at Waialae. Those greens are flat and easy. But oh man, okay. Can we show your card here? Can we show your holdings here, Joe?
Sure.
So hold on, I'm gonna pull this up real quick.
So I didn't get quite as many as I was hoping to get, but here's
you're working on a show here, Joe. You're also
so
working.
It's a little tough. Yeah, it's a little tough. So I had 30 of Sergio. It went down to 7, and I only ended up with my 1 share of Lanto. But the bulk of my portfolio is going to ride on Hideki, hopefully having a good week. But look, if Hideki can top 10, which I don't think is unrealistic, you're making $4 or $5 a share there. And I really like Cam Smith this week a lot. I think he's going to be my one and done pick. I just think the kid has a ton of moxie, and I like him returning to this course that sets up very well for him. That's it. Those are my guys.
First of all, I love that you got Cam Smith in the free market. I mentioned that's where I think that he's the most valuable. I think that the potential, you can already see the value that you have built into Hideki here, which I think is interesting, right? Based on where you got him at, there's a bit of value in it already. And I love that. So I'm impressed, Joe. You've got some cojones to go back to Hideki and go get Cam Smith, not Ham Smith. I like that a lot. Further down, let's go further down here, because I want to see who the real values were here, and I want to see if any of these names pop off the screen at me. So there has been a pretty strong sentiment about Doug Gim this week. He closed at $3.76. He is a bit of an unknown entity to a lot of people. I mean, he hit the ball well during the fall portion of the schedule, but he's still very much an unknown entity. But $3.76, you're not asking him to do all that much. That would probably be, I'm doing a little quick math here, 60th or so, something like that there, 40th, 45th or so. I'm actually going the wrong way, 45th or so for him to pay out. So that's pretty interesting. Anybody else on this screen that you think was a particularly good value? Oh, here's Brian Gay that you mentioned. Oh, wow. Okay. So Joe, we were giving the example all day, all evening, like, oh, he's going to close at 2. No, he's going to close way above that. He closed at 3. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that is pretty good. So he would basically needs to make the cut and finish like 53rd or better in order to return some value. So of course it sets up great for a guy that plays like Brian Gay, and there aren't many of them left out there on the PGA Tour for some of these short hitters. I know Kevin Kisner touched on it this week that a lot of these guys kind of circle this event along with a chosen few others throughout the year on, this is my opportunity, let's cash this in, I got to make some money this week.
Yeah, I mean, $3 for a guy to finish 56th, who won 2 starts ago and played in the Tournament of Champions and finished 29th out of 42. That's pretty good. And I would argue that even if he didn't win in Bermuda, there are really only probably 3 or 4 courses that fit Brian Gay really well. This is one of them. Harbor Town's probably one, maybe Pebble, because that's very short. Maybe, I don't know, TPC River Highlands, things like that you can kind of get around without the boomstick. So yeah, that to me so far, as we scroll through here at $3, I think that's my favorite so far. We'll see if we can find another one here. Let's go to the third page of the sheet here. Takumi Kanaya did get to $2.55, so he's got a little bit of work to do. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else here that's really jumping off the screen at me. There's just so many, one of these guys is going to pop off. I don't know which one it is, but one of them's going to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's a couple guys here, just, I think in relation to their betting odds that are, maybe a little bit of value and out of place. I see, who was I just looking at there? Danny Lee, who you have up now, who can always pop, different events whenever it may be. Brandon Grace, who has really been falling lately, but he's the type of player where obviously we know if the wind kicks up, a little bit of a shorter course, I think could suit him reasonably well. It looks like he had a good finish at Mayakoba and RSM, 2 courses that I may kind of, have a little bit of a comp here with sort of the coastal theme and relatively flat. So, he could be a guy that pays off well, given his talent level. I mean, he's been on President's Cup teams. He's played very well in the past.
Yeah, what I'm trying to find down here is guys like Brandon Grace, guys like Danny Lee. I want poppers, right? I want a guy who might finish 11th. Not like, I don't care if he's, miscut or 11th. Like, that's what I want from you. I don't care if you're going to finish 38th for 6 tournaments in a row. It's nothing to me. I would rather you be a bit of a popper. There's Donnie Baseball says, tell me I'm crazy for getting 20 shares of McGirt. I think you're crazy.
You're crazy, Donnie.
Donnie, you're crazy. What are you doing? Here he is, Dirt McGirt. What has Dirt McGirt done? Is this his first cash market that he's been a part of? Oh boy, Donnie baseball.
Donnie's got shares, my man Donnie.
20 shares. Let's see how the fourth page shook out here. Okay. Oh wow. I'm surprised there wasn't more Jerry Kelly love. I mean, I say that almost jokingly because he's now on the Champions Tour. But whenever you get to Waialae, everybody wants Jerry Kelly. Gotta have him. He closed at $1.37.
Yep, fairways and greens at Waialae. Jerry Kelly will get you that.
VJ Singh was dead last, $1.16.
Yeah, the bottom of this field is pretty weak this week. But that said, I think like you were highlighting earlier, range. I kind of wish I would have picked one or two there and grabbed some shares of and hope that they can come through top 10. There's a bunch of guys, back at the top again. There are that realm of sort of 13 through 15 there that basically goes to Leishman. Those are guys, I think any of those players I can see winning this week, which could pay off a great bit, seeing that you're getting them in and around $5 a share. So Sergio, Todd, Horschel, Munoz, Leishman, those are the type of guys that can pop. And Leishman is a great example of what you talked earlier about wanting poppers. So I noticed this about Leishman is he's struggling with the putter right now horribly. But when he flips that and can gain strokes putting, this guy wins tournaments. Like his last 5 times that he's gained strokes putting, he's got a first, a second, a third in there. So when he can find that week where his comfort level goes up, and I think this is one of those courses for Mark, he's played it almost every year, get a little bit of comfort level on the greens, make a couple putts, and all of a sudden he pops and is in the top 5. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, there's a lot of value in there. Brian asked if I got any Ben Taylor this week. So this is man. There was a you could bet top Great Britain or Irish player in this field, and the only 2 options were Russell Knox and Ben Taylor. So Mark Immelman bet me a bottle of wine. He took Taylor, I took Knox, and Knox was minus 333, and I got even money on the bottle of wine with Mark. So I think I'm ahead, and I should have hedged here is the lesson. I should have hedged with a share or 2 of Ben Taylor in case he finishes like 32nd and beats out Russell Knox. That's pretty funny. I like that.
Well, it's tough to beat Mark Immelman in anything golf, but the gambling odds, I like RickRunGood's chances.
Well, and it was funny because Kyle jumped in at the time and he was like, "Mark, you should get odds on this." I was like, "Just keep it down, relax." And Mark's like, "I'll take it straight up." And I was like, "All right, yeah, no worries." Cool, man. I mean, this is crazy stuff. The final couple of minutes of this, the idea of cash markets, the even the number of bids when we logged on here an hour ago, around 15 minutes ago, I think is a really good sign, and only more of a good sign for what is to come. What is going to happen the next 4 days as these markets become more and more liquid, as there are a lot of opportunities to move on and off of golfers, because it doesn't stop now, Joe. This is 4 days worth of you keeping an eye on these guys, maybe investing or getting out of some of these stocks.
Totally. Doesn't stop now. This continues. Your price will live update from now until the end of this tournament on Sunday. So keep an eye on it. Look for opportunities, guys, places where you can bid to maybe add some shares to your portfolio, and, look at the ask price of the guys that you have currently to see if you can off some shares in there and make a little bit of money. But awesome to see the amount of people that were bidding early on this week. I know Jock Market has the ability to just add in shares when needed to. So the more and more people that get into this and continue this trading volume like we saw today, it's only going to get more fun.
There you go. Couple of quick items. If you haven't downloaded and deposited yet, use the code POWER20. That'll give you a $20 deposit bonus. That's like 2 more shares of Webb Simpson. That's all good. And then also, if you do have feedback, Joe mentioned this earlier, the guys at Jock Market, very open to it. We have had a great dialogue about things that we want to see. I've gotten a couple of responses or messages for things that I never even thought of, which I thought was cool. So keep it coming. Obviously our inboxes, or however you want to get in a hold of us, I'm sure you can figure it out. All of that is open. But Joe, yeah, Power Hour number 2 in the books. I'm stoked for the next 4 days, and I'm stoked for next week.
Awesome, man. Can't wait to do it again next week. Appreciate all you guys for coming in. We'll see you soon.
See you soon. Later.
Peace.